Welcome to Listen English Story. Chapter 1. Is your job boring? Asked a hairy green creature on the television screen. No, Wagner the werewolf replied, speaking to the TV. He finished his drink and crushed the can in his hand. Do you get tired of scaring people all day? The advertisement continued. Would you like to try something new? What about a job where you can be nice to people instead? No thanks, Wagner muttered, changing the channel. What's the point of being a monster if you don't scare people? Or occasionally eat them? He hated commercials. He'd rather watch ice skating than sit through them. Werewolves were known for having little patience, and Wagner was no exception. He tossed the crushed can into the trash. I agree, said a disembodied voice. Who said that? Wagner growled, looking around the dimly lit room. The only light came from the television. He sniffed the air, recognizing the scent right away. Oh, it's you. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Dr. Griffin, the invisible man, nodded, though Wagner couldn't see it. Werewolves had sharp noses, and humans had a distinct smell, one that Wagner never liked. I can never fool you? Griffin chuckled, clearly in a good mood. He sat down in an empty chair, picked up a newspaper, and started reading. All Wagner could see was a floating pair of shorts and the newspaper. Griffin didn't wear much clothing, preferring to move unnoticed. They were at Count Dracula's new mansion in Virginia, a sprawling estate nestled in a small forest, a perfect spot for monsters to hide and hunt. Tonight was the monthly meeting, and Dracula insisted on full attendance from all the classic monsters, even those coming from overseas. Anyway, I agree with you, Wagner, Griffin said, turning a page of the newspaper but eyeing the werewolf. If you're going to be a monster, you might as well scare people. Wagner showed his sharp teeth in a grin. But you're not a real monster. You're just a human who nobody can see. That's not the same. I suppose it depends on your definition of monster. By mine, you don't qualify. Now, Frankenstein's creature? That's a real monster. Shlah, Griffin hissed. Keep it down. I think he's in the house. So what? He's got terrible hearing. Griffin couldn't argue with that. True, Frankenstein's creature is definitely one of the scariest and most hideous monsters out there. You're not scary at all, Wagner interrupted. Griffin ignored the jab. But he's so dumb. He could never be a leader, you know? He doesn't have the potential. You don't know him as well as I do. He's smarter than he looks. And who said a monster has to be intelligent? That's true, Griffin acknowledged. But if you want to make a real impact, you need brains. Look at me. I'm a doctor. Oh, wow, a doctor, Wagner said sarcastically. I suppose if you want to be in charge, brains help. But most of us aren't interested in that. Most of us just want to stay hidden, scare people now and then, maybe eat someone once in a while. We're not all hungry for power, you know. That's the problem, Griffin said, determined. We need to be smarter and more organized. Then we could take over the world. Wagner yawned. He'd heard this speech before. The invisible man was obsessed with world domination. Wagner got up and headed to the kitchen to make some popcorn. If you want to rule the world, go for it. he yelled from the kitchen. "Nobody is stopping you. I can't do it alone. I need the other monsters to work together with me as a team." "Most of the others don't care about that stuff," Wagner called back. He returned with a bowl of popcorn. The TV still showed nothing worth watching, so he turned it off, plunging the room into complete darkness. "Hey, it's too dark in here," Griffin complained. "I can't see anything?" "I can," Wagner said, walking behind the invisible man's chair. He grabbed the newspaper and ripped it apart. "Arg!" Griffin yelled. "Now you know what it feels like when you can't see someone. Annoying, right?" Wagner smirked. "I can't help being invisible," Griffin grumbled. "I didn't ask for this." "Yes, you did. You made the potion that turned you invisible," Wagner shot back. Griffin fumbled over a table in the dark. "Turn a light on, will you?" Outside, a dog howled and the door creaked open. A gust of winds blew through the room as Dracula entered silently. "Good evening," the vampire greeted, flipping on a light with his long fingers. "What were you two discussing?" "We're talking about dumb monsters," Griffin said, still frustrated. "I see," Dracula said, casting a sharp look at the invisible man. "I hope you're not including me in that conversation." Chapter 2. Somehow, Dracula always knew where the invisible man was. Vampires had many secret powers, and being the oldest vampire, Dracula had mastered more than most. He enjoyed keeping some of his abilities a mystery. "I wasn't talking about you, boss," Griffin quickly clarified. Actually, it was Wagner. He said most monsters are stupid. Dracula smiled, his red lips stark against his pale white face. Of course, monsters are stupid, but still smarter than humans. The comment stung Griffin, who, despite being invisible, was still a human. Though no one could see him, he often felt more like a monster. That's why he worked with the monsters. He needed them to achieve his plans. "Mr. Hyde is smart," Wagner said, munching popcorn. "But most monsters are idiots. We need better education, Dracula." Wagner was one of the few who dared speak to Dracula like that. Most monsters feared the old vampire, but Wagner and Dracula were friends. They even hunted together on occasion. "We don't need smarter monsters," Dracula replied. "We have a few bright ones, Mr. Hyde, you, and of course myself. I'm probably the brightest." "You are, boss," Griffin said, giving a thumbs up that no one could see. Wagner, confident in his strength, wasn't afraid to challenge Dracula. "Are you sure about that? Are you the smartest?" "Who's smarter than me? Name one monster," Dracula demanded. "I'm thinking," Wagner said between bites of popcorn. He licked the salt off his claws. "What about that guy in bandages?" "The bandaged guy?" Griffin asked. "You mean the mummy?" "Yeah, the mummy," Wagner said. Dracula burst out laughing, making the ground shake. "The mummy? You must be joking. He's a total idiot." Wagner's eyes glowed red. "Sure, he's dumb now, but he wasn't always like that. He was a ruler of Egypt before he died. He used to be smart." "That's just a rumor," Dracula scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Anyone can claim they ruled Egypt. He's never proven it. Why would he lie?" Wagner asked. He's crazy. Last month, he said he won an Olympic gold medal for swimming. Dracula sneered. Griffin laughed, remembering. He tried to sneak his hand into Wagner's popcorn, but the werewolf caught him. Get your own popcorn. Just then, another figure entered the room, the swamp creature. It's true. It gurgled in broken English. The creature had a wide fish-like mouth and usually lived underwater, but it had come for the monthly monster meetup. The mummy was an Egyptian pharaoh? I doubt it, Dracula said dismissively. But it doesn't matter. He wasn't a monster back then. That's what we're talking about. He became a monster after he died and returned. How did he come back from the dead? Griffin asked. I wouldn't mind doing that. I could help you with that, Dracula offered, stepping closer. No, I don't want to come back as a vampire. You'd rather be a brainless mummy? Dracula asked. Well, number, but I don't want to drink blood either. Have you ever tried it? Dracula asked with a sly smile. No, and I don't plan to. Dracula gave him a piercing look. You'd better watch your words. Griffin quickly backtracked. I'm sure it's not that bad. But you were human once too, right, Count? All vampires start as humans, Dracula confirmed. Then we become something greater. After you die? Griffin asked. Dracula's eyes narrowed. It's complicated, but yes. Then you're just like the mummy, Griffin exclaimed, realizing his mistake too late. Dracula was on him in a second, grabbing Griffin by his invisible throat. Don't you ever compare me to him? Wait, are you going to kill me? I'm thinking about it, Dracula said coldly. Most likely. Please don't make me a vampire. I want to stay human. Why? Wagner asked, spitting out a popcorn kernel. You always say you want to be a monster. Griffin shook his head, still in Dracula's grip. I want to stay human because I don't want to become stupid. I may not be the smartest person on earth. You're the dumbest, Dracula snarled, bringing his sharp teeth close to Griffin's face. But even the dumbest human is smarter than the smartest monster, Griffin declared. Dracula was so furious, he hurled Griffin across the room. Though the invisible man couldn't be seen, the others heard the window shatter as Griffin was thrown outside into the bushes. Standing up, Griffin peered through the broken window. I'm okay, and I challenge you, Dracula. Wagner shook his head. Never challenge the king of vampires. I'll tear you to pieces, Dracula roared. No, not a fight, Griffin said. You say you're the smartest monster, and you call me the dumbest human. Let's test it. Let's see if the dumbest human is smarter than the smartest monster. All the monsters looked at Dracula, who had no choice but to accept Griffin's challenge. Chapter 3, At the Monster Meetup, Griffin explained his challenge. He wanted to become the new leader of the monsters. This was his big moment. Who is the strongest monster? It's Count Dracula, our leader, Griffin said. The other monsters sat in the living room, listening. Frankenstein's creature had finally arrived. A few zombies sat on the floor like kids, and there was a witch from the east, Mr. Hyde, who flew in from England, and the mummy, who stood stiff in the corner, away from the fireplace. And who is the smartest monster? Griffin asked, waiting for an answer. I am, Dracula said. Stop wasting time, Dr. Griffin. What's your point? Yes, you are the smartest, Griffin agreed. Dracula is the smartest monster. But what has he done for us? The others looked around. Dracula crossed his arms but didn't say anything. Well, Griffin asked again, if he's the best we have, what do we have to show for it? Nothing. After all these years, we still hide from humans like we're scared of them. We should be ruling over them. We have our own TV channel, said the swamp creature. The others nodded. That channel is terrible, Griffin said. It only shows old reruns. That doesn't count. What are you getting at? Wagner, the werewolf, asked, curious about the challenge. You've let me be part of your group, even though I'm a human. Thank you. But let me help you. You're like family to me. I can do better for you than Dracula has. He used to be human, but he's forgotten what humans are like. He's lazy. Dracula's eyes glowed red, but he stayed quiet. He was waiting to hear about the challenge. Griffin noticed the others getting bored, so he made his announcement. I challenge Dracula for leadership of the monsters. You will build 2 traps exactly the same. They should be identical with only one way to escape. Dracula and I won't know how to get out. Don't tell us. That's it? Wagner asked. Sounds simple enough. He looked around. What do you all think? The monsters loved traps and thought it was a fun idea. They clapped and cheered, agreeing to Griffin's plan. Dracula shrugged. I'm smarter than that fool. Any trap they build, I'll escape in seconds. But no garlic or crosses, that wouldn't be fair. Agreed, Griffin said. How long will it take to build the traps? Zara the witch called her friends. They came on their broomsticks to help. The witches built 2 big black boxes made of metal. There were no doors or windows, only a small hole to climb inside. Once inside, the witches would seal the hole with metal, making sure there was no way out. Dracula was impressed with how quickly the witches worked. They built the traps in less than a week and set them near the swamp. The full moon was shining, and the other monsters gathered around to watch the contest. Where's Griffin? Mr. Hyde asked. Did he chicken out? Wagner sniffed the air. No, he's here. I can smell his clothes. Griffin, dressed in bandages with dark glasses, stepped out. Sorry I'm late, he said. He walked to the black boxes. Let's start. Griffin climbed into the first box, and Dracula got into the second. The witches sealed them both in. Then Wagner turned to the swamp creature. Push them into the swamp. I didn't know this was part of the plan, Mr. Hyde said, surprised. It is now, Wagner said. The swamp creature easily pushed both boxes into the swamp, where they sank to the bottom. No air bubbles came up. What now? Mr. Hyde asked. Now we wait, Wagner said. They waited all night, but neither Dracula nor Griffin escaped. What do we do now? Zara asked. I think we have a winner, said a voice from the trees. Griffin, wearing a white sheet, jumped down. Boo, he said. The monsters were shocked. How did you escape? Wagner asked, smiling. I never went in, Griffin explained. I tricked the mummy to go inside for me. I used a speaker in his pocket, so you heard my voice." Wagner laughed. "Dracula's going to be furious when he escapes." The witches looked worried. "What do you mean? When he escapes there's no way out?" Wagner's eyes widened. "You were supposed to leave a way to escape." "Oh no, you fools!" Griffin laughed. "See, I told you they were dumb." Wagner nodded. "You win, Griffin. I was wrong about you. You really are a monster." "The worst kind," Griffin said, grinning. "The human kind. Now, let's talk about taking over the world." Dear listener, thank you so much for staying with us till the end. Your time and attention mean a lot, and we truly appreciate you for listening all the way through. We hope you enjoyed it and found something valuable. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you more content. Looking forward to having you with us again soon.